Greetings and salutations. Thank you for lending an ear to the voice of the times, brought to you this Tuesday, February 15, 2022, by Wilcon Depot, the country's leading home improvement and construction supplies retailer. Shop conveniently 24/7 with Wilcon Online Store. Just go to shop.wilcon.com.ph. For today's editorial, Mandate, Debate, and Vaccine Inequity. Around the world, anti-COVID measures are under siege. From Europe to New Zealand, opposition has been growing against mandated vaccination. In several cities across the United States, there is a clamor to end the required wearing of masks. Some of the protests have morphed into anti-government movements, a development that could leave deep fissures in a country's political landscape. The protesters vilify mandating vaccination and masking as authoritarian weapons to quell dissent. In rejecting these restrictions, they see themselves as defenders against state oppression. Last week, in many European cities, marchers assembled in the thousands to demand liberation from repressive anti-COVID requirements. In Paris, protesters carried placards that proclaimed truth and freedom as they denounced a proposed law that will require vaccine cards for dining out, traveling on trains, or attending cultural events. In the Austrian capital of Vienna, where COVID-19 vaccination will become compulsory beginning next month, 40,000 protesters took to the streets. Similar protests were held in Germany, which is weighing a general vaccine mandate. German Health Minister Karl Lauterbach lamented that the arguments made by anti-vaxxers had lost all measure and focus. A small group is willing to wipe all scientific knowledge off the table and voluntarily enter a bubble of bogus truths, he was quoted in a newspaper article. In Turin, Italy, hundreds rallied against mandatory vaccination for anyone more than the age of 50. In New Zealand, authorities tried to disperse anti-vaccine demonstrators camped outside the Parliament building by blaring out songs popularized by Barry Manilow. Their protesters responded with their own musical barrage, including Twisted Sister's "We're Not Gonna Take It," according to a BBC report. Because it has one of the strictest restrictions against COVID-19, New Zealand has managed to hold down infections to manageable levels. But now, the government of Jacinda Ardern is under fire for enforcing mandatory jabs and a 10-day quarantine. The biggest flashpoint, however, in the confrontation over COVID mandates is Canada, where thousands of truckers have blocked intersections in major cities to protest compulsory vaccination for drivers entering the country from the United States. The truckers' action, which has come to be known as the Freedom Convoy, has turned into a political quagmire for Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. What started as a spontaneous protest is now a well-funded campaign, with the organizers reportedly raising $7.8 million in donations. Across the border, Connecticut, Delaware, New Jersey, Oregon, and several other states are preparing to lift COVID mandates in schools, following long and passionate debates between parents and school officials over the health and safety of school children. States that still maintain the mandates are busy fending off legal suits and a surge of protests. With politics and health hopelessly intertwined, it becomes more difficult to plan a global exit strategy from the COVID pandemic, which hinges mainly on just how many people have been fully vaccinated, and the figures are dismal to say the least. The New York Times, citing the numbers from the Our World on Data project at the University of Oxford, noted that more than 4.86 billion people have received one COVID-19 dose, or 63.4% of the world population. 55% are fully vaccinated. The vaccination distribution picture is, however, far from rosy. In low-income countries, only 11% of the population has had a single dose. In countries that are more economically endowed, 78% of the people have received at least one dose. The disconnect is obvious. While rich countries agonize over mandatory vaccination, the rest of the world waits for the doses they desperately need to protect their people from another deadly coronavirus wave. COVAX, the global alliance that coordinates the distribution of pooled COVID-19 vaccines to poor nations, was supposed to provide 2 billion doses by the end of 2021. It has fallen short of its target, mainly because of vaccine hoarding by countries whose people, ironically, refuse to get jabbed, holding on to unwanted doses instead of diverting them to the millions that desperately need them is simply vaccine inequity. And vaccine inequity is not only unacceptable, it is contemptible. And that's the editorial for Tuesday, February 15, 2022, For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print, subscribe to our digital edition, or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and listen to The Voice of the Times.